For today's assignment, we're going to work on page 11 in your binder. So if you will, please get your binder, turn to page 11 in the orange section. This is lesson 1, practice 2, named Penguin. Okay, we'll be doing this in Photoshop. Go ahead and open Photoshop. At any point, remember, you can pause the video and go back at any point in the video. You may need to turn your volume up or turn your volume down, just whatever suits you. So once you have Photoshop opened, and you can follow along with me, look at the top of page 11. You will see an example of the penguin that we're going to draw today. Let's go to File, New. The name of this will be Penguin. Change the preset to default Photoshop size. That will make the width 7, height 5, resolution 72, color mode RGB color. For the background contents, this is what we're going to change a little. Instead of the white canvas, we're going to choose transparent. That simply means that the background will not be shown when we save a picture. Once you click on transparent, you will notice that the preset changed to custom, but all of this has stayed the same. So once you have the background contents is now transparent, click OK. And you will notice the canvas is a little different. It is white and gray checkerboard. That means that the background is transparent. Go ahead and zoom in over here in the navigation panel. Zoom in, make this about your full screen. Just like that, so you can see what you're doing well. Now we must save this. Go to File, Save As. For this, we will save this in our Photoshop Introduction folder. We're going to name this Penguin underscore your initials. The format will be Photoshop. So once you have named this Penguin underscore your initials inside your Photoshop intro folder, click Save. Click OK. Now we're ready to begin. Look over in the Files panel group. You will notice a few things here. You will notice a trash bin, which right now you can't click on it because this is the background layer. You will find a Create a New Layer button. This is what we're going to work with the most today, is the Create New Layer button. So what we want to do first, we want to create a new layer by clicking on this, and we want to rename it Body. What you must do to rename it, you must double click directly on the name. So layer 2, directly double click on layer 2 and rename it Body. We're going to do this in different parts today. The first layer we're going to create is the body layer. So with the body layer active, come over to your tools menu. It is always a good idea, let's go ahead and do this, in the options bar to click on workspace, default workspace, come over to the tools palette and change your foreground and background color to default foreground and background color, because someone in the previous class may have changed this. So it's always a good idea to come over and click on default foreground and background color. So you can see my tools, and we're on the same page. Come up to the double arrow at the top of your tools palette and make your columns 2 columns now. That way we're all on the same page here. Okay, the first tool that we're going to choose is called the elliptical marquee tool. It should be located on the first column, the first tool. If you see a rectangular marquee tool, remember, if you right click on this, you'll see the rectangular marquee, elliptical, single row, single column. We want to choose the elliptical marquee tool. So click on the elliptical marquee. So here, we simply want to draw an ellipse, an oval. If you see the example in your binder on the right, we simply want to draw an oval shape. About this size. It doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't matter if it's looks like scrunched or a little long. It's your penguin. So make an oval about this size. You will notice a dotted line appears around the oval. What we want to do from here, find your paint bucket tool. It's located on the second column, the sixth tool from the top. If you see a gradient tool, right click on it and choose the paint bucket tool. We want to make our penguin body black. So right now, your foreground color should be set to black. So simply in the middle of your ellipse, let's click and make it black. Now you notice that we still have a dotted line around our oval. So what we must do here, come over to the select menu and hit deselect, or you can simply on your keyboard hit Control D. And you'll notice that the ellipse is gone. Alright, for our new layer, for our next layer, we're going to create a new layer, come back down to the create a new layer button. We want to rename this layer face. We want to rename this layer face. So with the face layer selected, come back to your elliptical marquee tool and simply you can look at my example or the example in the book. We're going to make an ellipse the top part of the body. So at any point, if you feel like you drew the ellipse wrong, you can just start over again to get it right. If at any point in the video you can go back and redraw the penguin, redraw the ellipse to make it look something like this. Now, we're going to click on the gradient tool. Once again, the gradient tool, what you saw, is located behind the paint bucket tool. So right click on the paint bucket tool and now choose the gradient tool. Gradient tool is just a tool that combines different colors together. So make sure on the gradient picker, click on the down arrow, make sure that you have the black and white selection. It's the third one from the left. Double click on it. Now here, make sure that you have the linear gradient option selected. Make sure you have the linear gradient option selected. The mode is normal. And the opacity, for this we want to change the opacity, keep it at 100%. That means that it will not be transparent. Now, you still have your ellipse selected, or you still see your dotted lines. So start at the top, click and drag to the bottom, just like so, and let go of your mouse. You're going to see that your ellipse starts with the black and ends with the white, and they're all combined together. What we want to do here, we want to go to select, deselect, or once again you can hit Control D on your keyboard to deselect this. Create a new layer in the layers palette and name this new layer stomach. Name the new layer stomach. Once again, use the elliptical marquee tool. And you can see the example in your binder. For this, we want to start the ellipse about at the bottom of our face. So move your mouse to the bottom of your face and just move about halfway between the middle to the outside of your penguin. And for this, we want to click, and you can see at the bottom, you want to have a little section at the bottom of your penguin that goes below it. That's fine. You'll see the example in the book has it like that. So once you have yours similar to this, you can let go. Now for this, we want to choose the paint bucket tool. So come over, choose the paint bucket tool. Just a reminder, if you're getting lost on this, you can go back in the video. Use the paint bucket tool. Right here, we want to change the opacity. The opacity simply means the transparency of the color. We want to change the opacity to 80%. We want to see through it just a little bit. Change the opacity to 80%. Now, we want to use the fill color for this, a white. So with the paint bucket selected, come over to your swatches menu on the color palette and change it to a shade of white. Once you have your white selected, you'll see the foreground color is now changed to white. Now come over and click on your stomach. You will notice that you can see a line because this is transparent. You can see the body layer through this. Okay, so if you've gotten this, we want to deselect the layer. So go to Select, Deselect. On this next step is a little bit more tricky. We want to go back and select the elliptical marquee tool. Because we have this area down here at the bottom, we want to get rid of that area. We must do that by first drawing an ellipse again. So for this, you can come about the top of your face ellipse, come over all the way where these two meet, the side, come up, and where the top of your face layer is. And once again, you can always do this to what you have desired. You see the bottom of my ellipse. The bottom of my ellipse is similar to the bottom of my body layer. If you don't get the desired area down here, you can always just redo it and keep doing this until you get to what you want. So you'll notice right now the elliptical marquee tool, or the ellipse, is in line with the bottom of the body layer. Okay, once you have your desired ellipse, we're going to do this to get rid of this. Go to the select layer and choose inverse. We want to choose everything but what we have here. So right now you should see a dotted line around your entire canvas. The only thing that's not selected here is the inside. Okay, so now we want to delete this part. So on your keyboard, press the delete key, and you'll see that white area that was there now disappear. Okay, now so let's deselect this. Hit Control D to deselect. If you see a little bit of black, it's not bad. We're going to cover it with a feet layer later. Now let's create a new layer and name this layer Eyes. So now what you can do here, you can zoom in to your face. You should see your face here. You can zoom in a little closer. Now we're going to draw an eye. It's going to have two circles on it. One circle, use the elliptical marquee tool to draw a simple circle. We want to use the paint bucket. We want to make this white. You may, before you do that, change the opacity back to 100%. Change the opacity back to 100% and fill in the color using a white. Alright, once you have that, deselect the ellipse by hitting Control D. Now draw another ellipse for the pupil of the eye. For the pupil of the eye, just draw a small inside. Use your paint bucket tool. What you can do here, you can change the color of your eye. You can use black, you can use blue, green, brown, whatever color you want by clicking on the swatches. Whatever swatch you want. I'm going to choose blue. Use the paint bucket tool. You'll see the foreground color is now a blue color. Make that blue. Hit Control D to deselect this. Now what we want to do for this, we want to copy or duplicate the eyes layer. To do that, do your layers palette. On the eyes layer, right click on the layer and choose duplicate layer. This duplicate layer text box will appear, and we want to save this as eyes copy. Just simply click OK. You'll notice in the layers palette, the eyes copy layer will appear. At any point, the thing with the layers, at any point you see a small eyeball to the left of the layers. For this, means that if you click on the eyeball, it indicates the layer visibility. You can click to deselect it, to to make the layer invisible. So for the stomach layer, if I were to click on the eyeball, it would take out the stomach layer. To take out the face layer, to make it invisible, I could click on that and make that invisible. We want to have everything still visible. Now, the eyes layer, you'll notice, where did the eye go? Well, the eyes copy layer copied directly on top of the eyes layer. So what we want to do, we want to use the move tool. It's the first tool in the second column. So click on the move tool and come over with the eyes copy layer selected. Click and move the eye over to the right just a little bit because we want the penguin to have two eyes. Now, very good on that. What we want to do next, we want to create a beak. So click on the Create New Layer button. We want to rename this layer Beak. Now for this, you can zoom in a little better. We're going to put our beak right here. For this, we want to use the rectangular marquee tool. So right click on the elliptical marquee tool and select the rectangular marquee. And we simply want to draw a beak. Either you can draw it a rectangle or square size, just in the middle of the eyes that may go into the stomach layer. Okay, for this, we want to use the paint bucket tool to create it either you can use a yellow color or an orange color, whatever you prefer. I'm going to use the yellow color. So for the yellow, I click on yellow. You notice that my foreground color is now yellow. Use your paint bucket tool to paint it yellow. So or whatever color that you want. So your beak should now have a color of either orange or yellow, whatever you prefer. Now, let's deselect this layer by hitting Control D, or go into Select, Deselect. Now, with the beak layer still selected, we want to change the beak to a different shape by using a transform tool called Skew. So come over to the Edit menu, go to Transform. On the Transform option, choose Skew. We want to skew this. So once you select the Skew option, you'll notice that handles appear on the corners and in the middle of the object. So come down to the bottom left handle, and you'll notice once you move your cursor directly in that square, your black cursor kind of turns to a dotted white line. What you want to do from there is you want to simply click and move this over just a little bit. You notice once you click and move, it skews the shape a little. We want to make the beak have somewhat of a point. So you do that. Now come over to the bottom right and do the same thing. Once your cursor turns white, you can change it and move it just like so. Once you have your desired beak, you can change a little bit more if you want to. You can make it something like that. Once you have your beak, your desired shape, look in the options bar, find the green check mark, the Commit Transform button, and click on the green check mark. That means that we want to commit the layer. Okay, so once you click on that, you should see your layer. Your beak is now deselected. There's no more handles on it. So from now, we can zoom out just a little of our penguin. Now let's create a new layer. Name this layer Feet, because we're going to start drawing the feet here. Now for your feet, we want to choose the elliptical marquee tool. Come down here, start maybe in the middle, and just draw an oval like such. Remember, if you don't get your desired shape, you can always redo it. Okay, now let's use the paint bucket tool. I'm going to make my feet yellow. You can make it any color you want to by using the swatches palette over here. Click on the yellow and use your paint bucket tool to color your feet. Once you have colored your feet, let's deselect the layer. So go to select, deselect. And we want to do the same thing we did with the eyes. We want to duplicate the feet layer. So come over to the layers palette, right click on the feet layer and choose duplicate layer. We want to have it feet copy. Click OK. Once again, the feet copy layer copied directly on top of the feet layer. So we want to use the move tool to move it to the right. So come over here to the move tool and move this to the right. And now pretty much our penguin is done. So now that we are done with the penguin, with setting up our layers, we now look at the layers palette. You have about 8 layers. We're going to save this. Go to File, Save As. Replace it, click OK. Now we're going to submit the PSD file or the Photoshop file. You're simply going to submit this to me so I can pull this up to see that you have all of your layers correct. They're correctly named. So go to Canvas. Make sure you go to Modules. Then go to the Penguin assignment where you submit your assignment. Now once again on the right side click Submit Assignment. And we will browse for it on the computer. Go to your H drive, Photoshop. We're saving this in Lesson 1. In the penguin, you should see a PS picture beside the penguin. So first, we're going to submit this first one first, and then we'll submit a JPEG image later. So first, let's do this. Click Open, type in your name in the comments box, and click Submit Assignment. Now, once we have submitted that, go back to Photoshop, back to what you have, and now we're going to combine all the layers together. Now what we must do, we have about 8 layers that we've created. We have about 8 layers that we've created on here. So we want to combine all the layers together. To do that, you click on each layer by holding the Control key on your keyboard. Hold the Control key and select each layer, just like such. Every single layer. Once you have all of your layers selected, come over to the layer menu, click on layer, come down to the bottom portion of the menu and click merge layers. Once you merge layers, you'll see that it is named feet copy. It's simply whatever layer was on top. What we want to rename this, we want to rename this as penguin. Okay, now we're ready to save this. So let's go to File, Save. Now we want to save it as a JPEG image this time. So now go to File, Save for Web and Devices. Right here, I want you to select the JPEG option. Click Save. Once you're here, you're going to notice that we want to save this in our Photoshop Introduction folder. Our file name for this will be penguin_J, your initials, _ final. Once you have that selected, that typed in, click Save. And now, you're ready to go submit this on Canvas. You want to submit the JPEG image. Okay. Once again, if you have any questions or troubles, remember to refer back in the video or simply raise your hand. We want to turn this in. We want to turn in the JPEG image on Canvas.